Okay, we are live and recording. So over to you, Mark. And
Thank you so much, Forum. So, hello and good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. So, there are some housekeeping rules I would like to tell. Firstly, mute microphones if you're not talking, and secondly, you can ask questions using chat section in the Zoom. And if any panelist during the conversation has any opinion to share while the other panelist is talking, then you can always use the hand raise feature, and then we can like switch to the other panelist um, after that one. And secondly, yes, we are live on Facebook, so you can ask questions over there as well, and Forum will be spotting us in like touching the questions. So we will begin now. Firstly, I would like to welcome you to this session, Immersing Women Leaders in Agile Environment. So I am Saida Maruf Raza, working as a consultant business analyst at Systems Limited. And currently, I'm working on one of the biggest project of Systems Limited, which is Team River. And I'm wearing multiple hats over there, such as Scrum Master, Delivery Manager, and a few responsibilities of PMO as well. So I'm proud to be your host for the day. The whole session would be an exciting event with some of the best industry leaders. And we have our honorable panelists with us. So let me introduce you with the first panelist, Samya Kamar, the Exceptional Woman of Excellence by Women Economic Forum is currently the country head HR of S&P Global Pakistan. She has more than 14 years of experience in the field of HR. She has an innate passion for philanthropy through community outreach. She was awarded Global Goodwill Ambassador for Pakistan for her contributions toward community in 2018. Her purpose is nurturing workplaces by creating high performance teams. So we welcome you to the forum, Samya.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot for the wonderful introduction and for giving me this prerogative to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Kurut Lan with us, the head of corporate communications at Interloop Limited. Uh, is a, she's a senior, seasoned communications and PR professional with 12 plus years of diverse experience and a commendable print and digital footprint. She is a digital media enthusiast and has vast experience spanned over multiple industries. Prior to Interloop, she worked as a senior corporate communication manager at ExxonMobil. That is what she refers to as a colorful experience. So we welcome you to the forum.
Thank you very much, Maruf, for a wonderful intro. And I think it will be commendable to share such space with such commendable females as well. Thank you.
Thank you. And then we have Hira Zanab with us. She is a senior director, industry engagement with Pasha. She has a decade experience of working on multiple projects and products. Before joining Pasha, she worked with Jazz on introducing digital education called Smart Schools that catered more than like 38,000 girls. She has represented Pakistan on multiple forums such as the Mobile Alliance, Symposium USA Miss Global Forum in Riyadh back in 2018. So we welcome you to the forum, Hira.
Thank you, Mara, and I'm looking forward to an interesting discussion today.
Thank you. So the last panelist we have Mehreen with us recently joined Beyond Group as a senior business analyst and working after growth and partnerships across 10 countries, including Pakistan, Russia, Bangladesh, etc. She has 9 years of experience of managing projects and large programs across multiple industries like retail, FMCG, and telecom. Prior to Beyond, she was managing strategic programs at Telenor. She has represented Pakistan in the PMO Global Alliance in 2020 and won the first prize on the strategy proposed by her and the team. So we welcome you to the forum, Mehreen.
Thanks, Mara. Feeling honored to be part of this panel and looking forward to discussing.
So thank you once again to all of you. We will begin our panel discussion now. So before starting the panel discussion, I would like to recall the agenda and the theme of the panel discussion, which is we aim to challenge this myth that Agile is only for the technology and software development product. Today for that, we are here to clear this myth, and we will learn from our panelists how they are leading in dynamic agile environments. So I will start with the questions, and I will ask first question to all of the panelists, and I will be starting with let's say Samya. So I have a question for you. Please share one interesting thing about your professional and personal life. Like, it could be anything.
That's really an interesting one because honestly, I wasn't expecting this one. One interesting thing about, okay, interesting, perhaps it's interrelated with regards to both personal and professional. Something, if I tell you today, maybe you won't believe me. But when I had completed my MBA back in 2006, I never wanted to work. And that was not my aspiration. And how I ended up working, it's a very interesting story, because when I saw my class fellows who were receiving these offers, I realized that over a passage of time, people will think that probably none of the organizations is interested to offer me anything, or maybe I don't have any skill set for which, I am going to be paid for anything. So with that in my mind, I just came into the corporate sector knowing that how things will sort of pan out, or whether I should just have a flavor of what does it look like to be a working woman. And that day and this day, right, like I've never paused, and I cannot even imagine my life without my work. And another probably interesting thing about my personal life, sort of personal, I'll say, would be that on my very first day of working, I still remember, and I was so naive, that when I looked at the watch, I completed like everything, right? It was just 2 p.m. and I joined like in the morning, 9 a.m. And then I said, and I was speaking to myself that, Samya, what am I going to do? I'm so efficient, right? I'll finish everything by 2 p.m. So what am I going to do until 5 p.m.? But imagine that was so wrong. Like until this date, now I ask myself that the day finishes, but the work never comes to an end. So maybe I don't know whether these are the relevant answers or not. But yeah, this is what I can let you know. Or maybe in my personal life, one more thing is that, I cannot, like, while I can cook, I don't really enjoy to cook. So it's like a celebration at my home. My husband wants to have those festival. It's like a festivity when I cook something for him. I don't know again whether these are answering your questions or
No,
not. Some of the things
these
about
are perfectly answering, and like uh, we have like many females who think like that, and you're truly inspiration for them. Like they think that we will not get hired and we cannot do work, but when you start, you like figure out your passion and your like interest wherever you're working. So thank you so much for answering this. Now we can move to Hira. So you can also tell one interesting thing about your personal and professional life.
Yeah, I think so. While Samya was answering it, I was also thinking about it, and I think I'll share something that is very recent because that's easier to recall. Over the last decade, I was working with Knowledge Platform. It's multinational. And I became manager there after 2 years. I became head of department after 4 years, and I became part of their board of directors. And I reached a place very early in my life which people dream to reach in their lives. I had a team of 37 team members. I was managing an entire department that I started. Um, and then I let it all go. I left it. And I think that was one of the biggest decisions of my life when I reached a position where, it was all perfect in a manner of speaking. Um, but and one fine day, I took a step back and I thought that I love my job, I enjoy it, I love my team, and it's great. But I started to go in such a comfort zone that it was all very natural to me. And I realized that I know EdTech inside out. I was working in the domain of education technologies. So I knew it inside out. But I realized that now is the time that if I want to really broaden my horizon, I need to take a step back and I need to take a risk while I still can. Um, so I left my dream job, um, completely shifted my domain, uh, completely went in a completely different direction. Um, but I think it was a big decision. A lot of people, even when I left, people didn't believe that it can happen. But I think that was one of the key points and interesting points of my life that taught me that you have to push yourselves to not go into comfort zone and take risks while you still can. I hope that answers your question.
It's perfectly answering, and it's already inspired me. So yes, you are truly an inspiration for the girls who are like a very enthusiast to achieve something, and when they realize that they are in like again in comfort zone, then they like go in a different direction to learn more. So yeah, uh, amazing. And now I will move towards the next panelist, Kurtilan. So how do you like, how would you like to share your personal and professional life? One.
My professional and personal life has been intertwined together. Since I was like 2021, I started working, and coming from a business family background and the only female who operate for this kind of environment of working, I once saw my entire family standing in front of me telling me, "You will be taken out of the family if you keep doing what you're doing." But I think the little rebellion in me that I didn't realize I had at that time when I was 2021, it actually shaped me what I am today. But a very interesting incident that I specifically remember was when I joined Metro Cash and Carry, where I have actually served for 7 years, and that has been the pioneering 7 years of my career because they shaped me the way I am. I remember that was my fourth day of orientation. I joined in 2008, 2009. The company was very much new, 1 year into the Pakistani market and facing many challenges. And the communications department was a pioneer department at the time. And I was sitting across my MD, he was Italian, and there was a speech issue as well because he couldn't speak English very well. He just looked at me and he said, "So, lady." So, my name was a pretty difficult to pronounce. So, he used to call me lady for next 5 years without taking my name. I said, "So, lady, how are we doing today?" I said, "So far, so good, Giovanni." His name was Giovanni Sorenzo. So he just looked at me with that one particular naughty smile and he said to me, "Okay, lady, we have thrown you into a frozen pool of water and now we'll see you'll survive or not." And that was one ticking challenge that that guy gave me that day that has actually placed me where I am in my life today because I took it, and I am blessed with beautiful mentors, mostly men and women, because women were not into leadership positions at that point in time, but men who actually guided me through then to where I am today, and they are like a part of family. That is one life changing incident that I had, which I still specifically hold very close to my heart. It was 7 years of successful projects and successful stories. My projects were implemented across 32 countries, and that feeling of acknowledgement and empowerment that comes with it. I was blessed to have that very early in my life. So that is one incident that I actually remember. And then there is one thing that I have not seen happening too much in my past two jobs. When I was working with SSC, Services Corporation, and ExxonMobil, I could see two of my bosses actually having tears in my eyes when I tell them that I'm moving and growing in my job and I'm moving out of the job scenarios to another position that has been offered to me. Not only have they been very supportive, but I could see that they wanted to hold me back to because they valued the work I was creating with them as a team. So that is also a very strong acknowledgement that you get from your peers and your mentors that you're working with. So the entire 12 plus years have been dotted with these kind of experiences, but these two are very dear to me and I hold them very close to my heart.
Amazing, superb. Like we always need some challenge environment to prove yourself, and you are the true example of that thing. So yeah, it's totally inspiring and like amazing. Again, amazing. So next, I will move towards Mehri. So same question for you.
Well, it's a very short incident, a small incident. My first job interview, it lasted for exact 8 minutes,
Maheen, your voice is breaking.
and I got hired. Can you hear me now? Can you
Yes,
hear
I
me
can.
now?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Yes. So I was telling you that my first job interview, it lasted for just 8 minutes, not because I was a super genius, but because the position for which I applied, it was invited for an IT PMO. And the background, the educational background that I have, that is for, I'm dual specialized in marketing and HR. So my interview was with the head of IT. And there was the first question he asked me was, why should I even hire you? Give me one good reason. Why should I hire you? And firstly, I was always against giving interviews because I felt like it's just a process of bragging about yourself. Nobody can judge you. And I told him the same. So I told him, why don't you just hire me for 3 months as an intern and evaluate me rather than we spend 30 minutes here, I brag about what can I do and what do you expect from me. So this decision was made in just 8 minutes, and he decided to hire me as an intern. I served, I learned about everything about the domain, and after 3 months they offered me as a permanent for that position for which I actually applied. So that was one thing that always, because I always believe that, I honestly believe that I can never get, wouldn't be ever hired. I was that afraid of giving interviews. And one thing that personal in terms of interesting thing about my personal life is that I grow my own food. So I believe in being self-sustainable. So I have my roosters, seventh generation of my chickens. So every day we have like 8 or 9 organic eggs daily. So we don't have to buy that. And the food, everything is organic. And this is not in some village or anything, but the way we have designed our house, so it's we believe in like becoming more self-sustainable, seeing the things, the how the trends are changing. So that is what I do other than my role.
So I have two things to say. Firstly, I would like to visit your home to like
You're most
check
welcome.
all the environment, the organic healthy environment. And secondly, as you mentioned, firstly, like you are true example of a person um, and an example of someone who can survive. Like we all can survive in an IT environment without having IT background to do like agile coaching and agile training by learning by ourselves or from our trainers. So we don't need CS degree or IT certifications for like managing the IT projects. And yeah, yeah.
True.
So yeah, we have uh, really interesting stories and personalities with us. So I'm again very honored to have all of you with me on this the same platform. So I now move towards the next question, and that will be with Kurutulan. So how do you adopt your leadership style in your current role?
Okay, I think an agile mindset is very important to survive because right now in the age we are working, we are working with three sets of generations working in this under the same roof with varied management styles and working styles and thought processes. One does not match the other, but to have common business goals, it is important to create a sync between that mindset together so that there is process efficiency and customer satisfaction as well, along with containing the business goals. So the way I work is I identify and then understand and adapt as we go along. I also think that it is better to turn away from the traditional way of working and focus more on what is right rather than who is right. This is branching out to a very different style of management, and it encompasses innovation, it encompasses embracing the customer satisfaction levels, it embraces organized, self-organized teams. This also encompasses networking and collaborations. It's all human resource driven. So while I'm working, I keep that kind of mindset with my teams. Obviously, they are the younger lot, and then with the senior management, which is obviously a lot that is senior to me. And then there's another level that we work, because I'm in corporate communications. We are working with the chairmen and the CEOs who are way beyond the generation Y as well. So they have their kind of mindsets. Plus, working in an MNC is a very different thing, because the CEOs are coached in a certain way. When you come to business-owned environments where families are owning the business and you're working directly with them, the things change drastically. So I'm working right now with the textile manufacturing concern, but before that, the experience that I have implemented it here. Secondly, I think in whatever environment you are working, it is better to be very important on the core values that you have. That is accountability, which should be there. Then there is respect that should be there, and there's always collaboration and networking, which always helps you around. The CFT culture is something that always helps you around. You bring on board people who have experience of doing things certain way. Then you bring around people who have a different global mindset, and you combine it and you create success together. The other thing that I think the leadership role requires in terms of corporate communication that I am doing is that is doing multitasking and doing work in parallel. I have never worked in linear kind of setup, or I have never ever agreed to a linear kind of working, because that doesn't just work for me. I think it always saves time when you are working in a non-linear kind of way. You break your teams certain way, and you divide your tasks in a certain way that everything's come around together at one point in time. That creates not only value, but it also creates your work-life balance. The linear concept for me actually tires everything around, and there is more work that we are doing, and there is time wastage that I feel. That is my kind of work, the way I work, and that the way I train my teams to work. So this is how I incorporate everything when I'm working in any environment I'm working so far.
And I think this is the like excellent strategy for dealing with your team in such a bigger position as in the leadership role. So yeah, so I would like ask Hira the same question, if you can answer it, and you can also share your opinion on what Kuratulan said. So the question was, how do you adapt your leadership style in your front role?
Okay. So I think before we say adapting leadership style, we have to take a step back and thinking it with the agility side of things. And I strongly believe that it's not about the field that you're working in or the role that you're working in. It's more about the agile mindset. It's the approach with how you cater to the situations and how you solve the problems. When things become uncertain, when things becomes chaotic, do you take the challenge head on, and do you identify what are the triggers, what are the causes, and how quickly you're able to keep everything together and move on. So I think in case of my role particularly, I would like to share the example from from a story from a previous role, actually, because that was um, and that's a story that most of us can relate with. I think the biggest test of the agile mindset for all the leaders was when COVID-19 had happened. Um, because I still remember that how it affected everything that we were doing. And in case of me, I was at that time, I was, managing this entire department whose core role was interacting with people, working with schools, going out. And suddenly, one fine day, that role, that job didn't exist anymore. And we had to come up with new processes. We had to reinvent the job. We had to come up with new products. We had to set up all the processes from scratch. And in that time, I saw that the leaders who had the agile mindset were clearly distinguished. And we could see that the companies where leaders didn't lose it, didn't create panic, took faced the storm with the smile on their face, used the crisis to bring their team together, were the companies that really had the highest growth in that time. In that particular quarter alone, in which all of this happened, my team had to work for 20 hours a day. But that quarter became the highest performing quarter of all the times that Knowledge Platform had ever seen. And that was the key thing, that when crisis comes, when uncertainty comes, how do you respond to it? Do you let it define your choices, or do you bring your team together? And it's the agile mindset that can affect any leadership role, no matter what you are doing or no matter what field you are in.
Yes, exactly. And you said you adopt the agility leadership approach. So if there is a problem, you change your strategies according to that problem. Yeah.
Yeah.
To overcome it and then succeed in the given task. So perfect.
Yes.
Perfect. So I have next question with Samya. So how do you see your leadership agility in your role?
So first of all, I would like to thank other panelists because they have summed it pretty well, very well, in fact. Like I just have to, if I have to, like I'll add a couple of sentences to it. My idea was the same, like exactly. I wanted to share this example of pandemic, that basically this pandemic was a perfect example for many of us as well as the organizations, and we have had a lot many takeaways as a result of it as well. Meaning, what is it that we need to do differently when all of a sudden our priorities were changed? So when we started off our 2020, our goals were completely defined. We knew what we are expected to do. But then, if I recall, beginning February, we started hearing about this pandemic. And honestly, if I tell you about myself, my idea was that it's not going to hit Pakistan because, it's just related to perhaps China. And then we heard about the US. And then things became very serious in the middle of March, when we were hearing that, okay, it is getting a serious thing for our country as well. Long story short, I'll just give an example of S&P Global, that it's been on 24th of March, it will be one complete year, and we will be celebrating our anniversary where, we started working from home, and we will be completing that 1 year while working from home. Now, I don't want to take the whole credit for that, obviously not, because there were so many other leaders who have invested a lot of time for country specific ideas and initiatives, that how we are going to operate in the middle of pandemic. So I'll give a couple of examples. We invested, so since I am also a member of the business continuity planning group for the company, myself and other leaders, we would invest our time, like 1 hour every day. We would have our stand-up calls, and we would discuss that what are key priorities. So the key priority at that point in time was to allocate systems, how people are going to get them, because people had started working from home, but then those systems were supposed to be delivered to their homes, managing their personal addresses, where somebody is located, whether it's the present address or the permanent address, how we are going to ship it, how we are going to manage the data privacy and security at the same time. And once it was done, obviously we were hearing about some of the issues, meaning that some people got some of the accessories while others were not able to get them. Then the whole idea of Windows 10 migration, obviously, our site lead, he took that decision that we should now be allocating those laptops so that people are fully operational, and then managing all of it again during the middle of the pandemic. And like, it was by the end of November 2020 that we were able to successfully complete it for more than 1,300 people across Pakistan site. So with that in mind, like, the whole, if I have to sum it up, like, the agile leadership, obviously it requires some mental agility where people are able to embrace complexity while evaluating, examining problems, and those problems can change at any point in time. So one should obviously never panic. I can't agree more with you, Hira, on this one. And then I'll say that it also requires a lot of flexibility of mind as well. That while we don't have a lot of control, it was an external factor. We couldn't do much about it. We had very much in, like, there were so many limitations involved. But then making sure that how we can come up and identify solutions, and those solutions may not be perfect, but we have to live with them, and then we can learn from them, and maybe we can replicate something else as a result of those key takeaways, but not panicking in the moment if those solutions do not look perfect. Lastly, I'll say that the willingness to also embrace and lead those transformation efforts is very important, because if people would not have shown that willingness to operate, or if they would have had the same maybe the same way of operating, because it that was something which worked for them in the past. So that that flexibility, that element of willingness, that's very important for continuous improvement and for exploring new options. Because it's the same thing that was pandemic, and right now also we are in pandemic, but this is how the geopolitical situation also changes. That's how our political landscape changes, our economic outlook also changes. So we have to be nimble and we have to be agile. That's all I just wanted to quickly contribute to what other panelists very well mentioned.
Exactly. I would say the same. Like for the HR director, you need to have leadership agility, and you are the perfect example of that. As you have just mentioned, that you are not only adapting the things, you're also celebrating, and that's a great idea. I would say to celebrate the pandemic year, the whole year. So yeah. If any other panelist has to say something or share something related to agile um, leadership agility, according which they have adopted during their like pandemic, the whole year, the pandemic year. So
So I won't take much time, but just to add to that, because everyone is relating things to pandemic. So agility, I would say that it was towards not only the employees. At that time, I was working in Telenor, so I must appreciate that the way they responded was not just specific to the employees, but also to our customers. Because at that time, we came up with those ideas that was how to serve your customers, making sure that they stay at home and they get all the services like mobile top-ups, like buying those. So we came up with few partnership deals with other organizations. They were based in entertainment industry. They were also related to edtech education, few gamings, mobile wallets. These all were done just to facilitate or make it easy for our end customers so that they know that we care. So I believe that agility or being agile in an organization or as a leader, your focus should be for all those who are getting benefit from you, your employees, your customers for whom you are creating that service or product. So yes.
I'm so eager to know Kuritilan's opinion as well, as far as she's like working for the textile industry. So how you managed during the pandemic?
So I think it was just not the pandemic. Even before that, there was a time period when there were blasts happening, and females were sent home packing. I was working with Awari Hotels at that time, and we remember there used to be a blast, and everybody was sent packing. Especially in Karachi, if we say, the situation has always been in a way that it is agile for working. But if we specifically talk about this pandemic, In the textile industry, they are not very digital savvy. They have not been digital savvy before. But when this pandemic hit us, we were very much aware that it is coming our way in November, December, when China was badly hit with that pandemic. So we started strategizing in December, January, and we went on a complete lockdown in March. 24th March, I guess, was the date widely spread when the major lockdown happened. So what we did was that, like other organizations, moving our every asset to digital, we were working with agencies who were providing us data solutions like Inspectorio Site and Inspectorio Rise. That does not only was responsible for checking the mental and physical health of our employees because they were working in the factory environment. It is a physical work. It cannot be all automated. But there was data collection that was going on at that time. We were doing our virtual tours because our customers were getting hit. Those who couldn't come here, we developed those virtual tours of our factory premises for them. And we in 4 months, 5 months time, the entire company went to digital first. So when we were eased into June, we were very much on our toes with our strategies, not only the executive class, but also the non-executives at that time. So we were working in shifts. There were 50% people coming in and 50% people coming from home. So we were on rotation at that time. It's a big organization with more than 21,000 employees in our 4 plants right now. Coping up for the first 3 months was pretty hard because we were working 24 hours a day. Some were available in the morning, some were available in the night. Some didn't have the data connectivity. Some people were facing the internet issues. But I think after this first lockdown and we eased into the second lockdown, by then we were already hands on how to work, maintaining our work-life balances at that time. So I think this pandemic has not only taught us that agility that we were using unconsciously before as well, before this pandemic time, put to use more in this time period. It has also made us more agile, not just the thinking, but in our working styles. And now we know that whether we are sitting in an office environment or not, we can still work from remote locations. We can be more productive. How we are going to manage the children and our parents and our relatives and still work here, like I'm sitting at home, connected to you people right now while I was traveling in the morning, and I just came here and plugged in. So I think that is a complete lifestyle change that we have looked at. This pandemic has taught us that nothing is impossible if we put our heart and mind to it. But the key is how fast we adapt to the change, and the less we panic, the more we produce and be more productive. That's how we transformed ourselves.
Exactly, and it's really interesting to know that your team and your, like, say, organization was already prepared for the disastrous situations, and you were halfway there. And when the pandemic was here, you were prepared, and you, like, quickly improved your strategies towards to cope with it.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
great. That's amazing to know. Okay, now I will ask the same question with the all panelists, which is like, I'm presuming that we all have like agile mindset and we are in leadership positions, so we must have tried to improve the agile mindset, to like develop agile mindset within our teams. So I would like to ask, like, how what challenges did you face while doing it, like um, um, creating agile mindset within your teams? So I would like to ask, start with Samia. So Samia, what challenges did you face
So
to
if
develop
I,
agile mindset?
yeah, so I'll talk about our company. And when I first heard about this terminology, agile, it was like,
Chocolates.
it was 4.5 years ago, when it was a mandatory program for all of us to undergo this learning journey of agile, which was think agile and breathe agile. So with that, like, obviously when I was undergoing that course, what was at the back of my mind was that, okay, how are we going to have it implemented within the, let's say, human resources department. Like obviously it was a mandatory program for everyone, and us as business partners, it was super imperative because we were supporting business at that point in time. For any technology team, or let's say for any other team, it's pretty much understandable that how they are going to adopt it. But for us, like, it was sort of a thought starter that, okay, how are we going to implement? And then ever since, like, it's like more than 3 years that our chief people officer, she joined the organization, and she wanted us to embrace this change, is where we actually saw its implementation. And I'll tell you, like, what are some of the steps that we took. And obviously change is new for everyone. So basically, as HR professionals, we were asked to identify and highlight like business problems. What are the business problems overall across enterprise wide? Once we had those business problems at hand, then there is a whole like process of undergoing like CPP, which is centralized prioritization project, like which project has the highest number of votes and why, and what's the scale, what's the size, how many people is it going to impact, with that idea in mind. And obviously so our role was to support business, and we came up with these projects, and it was not related to any specific country or any specific location or any specific business, but it was enterprise wide. And the idea was that as a result of which we are going to come up with some products. Now, I won't say that every project flew and every project had the similar level of rating, but then obviously it was trimmed down. The list came to 10, and those were some of the new products that we, as an entire HR team, we were able to offer to the business. And to begin with, obviously it was something very new for the business leaders as well, because we came up with some new policies, which is putting people 1.0, 2.0. Right now we are expecting another, which is going to be our 7th series. So in short, like the idea was very new for business leaders to sort of listen about those new products, and those are releases and are like from us, because obviously these terminologies are something which are expected from business leaders to tell us basically. Anyway, so if I talk about challenges, I won't say challenges, but I feel like when we are doing things at a very fast pace, communication is key. It is something that we should definitely consider, that to whom are we communicating, who is going to be the target audience, what should be the toolkit, what should be the idea, is it just the email, or whether we are going to think about road shows, how is the broad communication going to go out, how easily we can socialize with our target audience ahead of the implementation of any new product or any new offering that we are providing, or any new policy for that matter, in our terminology, if I have to say. So these are maybe some of the things that we definitely need to be mindful of. But one thing I can surely say, that there are phenomenal benefits for people who are working within the field of human resources, because their mindset is not then just limited to day-to-day work, but rather that exposure of working for let's say cross location, cross functional projects, that plays a vital role in terms of making their resume more marketable, in terms of making their skill set more employable. So yeah, because otherwise for any HR professional, I'm sure people who are working in other organizations, a typical day would look like same, a typical week or month will look like same. But in our environment, it is very different. It's very different, because even if I begin my day, we all work in a matrix structure anyway, which means that we have to get the work done regardless of wherever somebody is sitting. So for example, my counterpart sitting in India, or my counterpart in the Philippines, we can also come together, and we can be assigned a project where we have to actively work. So the line of authority or reporting lines, they don't matter anymore. For that matter, relationships matter. And again, I'm not going to be someone who should be talking more about like relationships, but obviously relationships matter. Relationships are the ones that take people to places. Like I couldn't imagine, to Kurtulan's point, I never imagined that I'll be meeting with so many new people almost on a daily basis that I wouldn't have, like, I've never known, I haven't seen, I haven't interacted, but that's the new way of working now. And it's so common, like we do it day in, day out. We don't have to travel anymore. Now, again, I'm not saying that whether it is for good or bad, but that's the new reality. And that's what we are all trying to get ourselves adjusted to, which is a great thing as well, because I couldn't imagine that the amount of new people that I have met, I wouldn't have imagined if we were not in pandemic. So, so yeah, we as a company, we have embraced it. We have adopted all those frameworks very well within our company.
It's again great to know that your organization is not stick to the policies and SOPs. So you are always improving, trying to improve, trying to adopt new things, and working in a better manner. So same. How many challenges and what challenges did you face during the? Uh, how many challenges did you face to develop the agile mindset of your team? So this question is for like Hira, for you.
Okay, I think so. I think I will try to answer this question in 3 points, just for sake of everyone to also, see, learn from, or maybe just know the experiences that I went through while doing it with our team. The first and foremost thing, I can't emphasize it enough, that a leader has to be an example of whatever they are trying to do with their team. If as a leader or any person, that if you're working with a team, if you are not on board with those ideas yourself, it's going to show up in the actions. And you can't preach what you can't, um, uh, follow in your lives. So before even trying to inculcate this mindset in your team, take a step back, reflect, connect with yourself, and see if you firstly are implementing those ideas in your life. And start with yourself before you work with your team. That's the first point. The second point is, and to connect with Samya, what Samya shared as well, one of the things that I have seen do work wonders is that often leaders just tell their team members about what needs to be done and how it needs to be done. And they do not tell them the why it needs to be done. And I have seen wonders with just telling the team about, how they can relate with the bigger picture, how they're just a small mundane task is linked to something bigger. Um, what we underestimate is the value each and every team member brings to the table. And once they realize that value, once they realize the purpose of their job, then they are more committed to that job. And then you don't have to focus more on, that you should be open to change, and you don't have to then reinforce those things, because then their commitment allows them to do all of those things that we want them to do. And the third point is that something that really helped me with my team was that I had these pillars defined within our team, and these pillars could vary for different people and different departments. But in my case, those there were 3 pillars. One was trust. That I had this very, and I'll talk about it. One was trust, second was communication, and third was respect. What I mean by trust is that I had the big, thing with my team that it's okay to make mistakes, but you have to tell. You should not be covering up. You should not be blaming others, and you will never ever be, scolded or punished for making a mistake. Rather, you have to trust each other, and that again, that comes with leadership, because if leadership is not following it, then it doesn't happen. So we, had this pillar of trust, pillar of communication. You not reactive communication, that when something goes wrong, only then you tell, oh this is something that happened, but proactive communication. And there is a very strong difference, and unfortunately most of the communication that is happening in the workplaces is reactive communication, and that's the root cause of so many problems. And the third pillar that we had was respect. Something that was completely no-go zone for me, not something that could be compromised. At the very least, each and every team member should be respecting. It's okay to have different opinions. It's okay to have different approaches. It's okay to have disagreements, but you should, be respectful of each other's, and not be imposing of the ideas, specifically when you're working on strategy and working on different approaches. So those were my three steps. But before, I conclude this answer, I think I also strongly feel is about hiring right people to begin with. And what do I mean by right people? What I mean by right people is, with this big team that I built, I remember there was this time that we had to hire 4 people, and we ended up, evaluating 120 people only to hire 4 people. But the key thing was, it wasn't that I was asking for a lot of experience, a lot of, skills and all that. One key thing that has been very important pillar or value that a candidate needs to have is willingness to learn. It's okay if they don't have skills. I can teach them hundreds of skills, but the will to learn, will to accept, will to expand skill set is something that has to be fundamentally there. If someone says that I already know what I know, I'm already expert in the field, I do not need to learn a new thing, but this is something new, and I would rather stick with my work. But I have done engineering, so I would like to stay in engineering. And there's so many things. So these are all red flags. So when you're assembling the team, know what are the things that, and this could vary for different leaders, but know what are the things that you can compromise on and what are the things that you can't compromise on. So when you're building the team, then you take the direction in that way and can inculcate the values that you want to bring in the team, that can stay together in tough times, that can move together as a single unit.
Right, super. Before I say anything on this, I would ask Mehreen to contribute because she's already raising her hand.
Yeah, so thank you. So just adding on top of what Samia and Hira said, just one small thing and this is to your question, your actual question about the agile mindset. So I believe that organizations, they do implement or create the agile environment, but they fail to implement or create the agile mindset. So what I mean by that is that all the processes or practices that requires you to do something in the agile way can easily be implemented. That is, you just have to get one certification done and you ask everyone to replicate that. You just hire one Scrum Master, he or she would be acting as a good or bad cop, and every single day you start having your Scrum meetings, everything is on track, you start you can track it. All those practices can be implemented with passage of time. But the challenge becomes when you fail to create that mindset. And by mindset, it is so difficult. People who are rigid, people who are not flexible as a human being can never have that agile mindset. Because this is a cognitive approach. You have to reshift the way you think. You have already learned certain things with passage of time. Becoming agile is more about unlearn and relearn something new. So all those old practices need to be erased from your mind, and you need to start thinking positive, even in the situation where everything you think is negative. So that's the point where you start learning from your mistakes. You become more innovative, more creative. And that's where you create those high value delivering teams, high performance teams. Just what Hira said, the pillars. I would say that it's more related to trust is created when there is transparency, open communication, you interact. How the way the offices or organizations are designed, even they represent whether the organization is agile or not. If you have closed rooms and you say you're agile, you're not, because you're not letting your people come or enter in your room without the door. That's where you are hindering the communication. So, and it's always from top to bottom when you have to implement the change. No doubt you have to implement it in a bite-sized piece where people can easily digest it, but you have to be that example. If you keep on asking them for proper documentation, and if you keep on enforcing them, even for some projects that does not require to be implemented the agile way, you cannot build a road using agile methodology. So that's your mind. If your mind tells you that we have to follow that waterfall methodology, that is not that you're not agile. You're still agile because you can respond to change, how you think. So this is something I would say that it takes a lot of time because it's not something you can implement by just making the entire environment agile. So you have to work with your people. It's more related to people management, more related to Samya's area, I would say. But these trainings are actually more needed rather than we train them on CSM or CSPOs and just expect them to bring in all those or just start having that agile mindset. So doing agile and being agile are always, like they say, they're two different things.
Correct, Mehreen, and yes, Hira, both of you basically put the focus on transparency and actual meaning of leadership. So if you want somebody to follow you and you call yourself a leader, then you have to do it before like asking your team to do that. So yeah, I am really impressed with the mindset you have. And you are training your teams respectively. So that's amazing. So Kurutilan, last question from you, and it's the same one. How many challenges and what challenges did you face to develop agile mindset within your team?
If I talk particularly about Interloop, when I joined in here, the team was in a very bad shape at that time. There have been a huge conflict management issue going around. And I didn't know that as 2019 will turn around, there is going to be this pandemic hitting us as well. So the key focus I did was sit with them and listen to them. Be a good listener. That is very important for a leader. No matter how stupid the thing you think it is, it might be very important for your team member to communicate. So and I am a communicator. I am in corporate communications. It comes with the job as well. So I always have an open ear for personal and professional issues, whatever my team comes through with. It could be something happening in their personal lives going along, which is disrupting their working style. I can now read their faces. I can tell what is happening, and they come easily along and talk about it. So it makes it easier for the team to bond and communicate. The more well knitted your team is, the more agile it becomes. So communication is the key. Yes, adaptability is the key. Yes, and opening for new ideas. So whenever your team member comes up with a different idea that you think, as per your experience, is not going to work, let them do it. Have faith in them. Let them try it, and do not penalize them if it doesn't work 100%. Just time it in a way that you can save the day at the end of the day. So I always work with two kinds of approaches. If something that my team member communicates it to me, for example, in social media, if one of the guys come up with me and he says that I think I should go with the video rather than a static post, I ask him to go with it. And if I like the idea, we proceed with it. I don't block ideas. I like this new generation coming up with what they have in their mind, explore it, and create the universe that is more inclusive and diverse rather than stopping in and putting blocks into it. So I think that is one approach that has actually opened up my team with me. And the management response after 6 months, me inducted into this role, was that your team has started performing 70% of what it was performing for the past 3 years. They were all on the brink of being fired when I came in. That was the feedback that I was getting, and I was actually concerned how I'm going to turn it around. So these were the two, three things. Number one, trust. Number two, listening to them. Number three, not talking about what they are talking to you, and not talking among the team what they have talked to you about. Because obviously everybody has grievances with every other thing that the other person is doing in bigger diverse teams. So yes, these are the two, three things that I addressed to, and then I put myself behind their projects and their ideas, and I turned it around in like 6 7 months. And now this team is commendable and a star team right now in Interloop, and it can be seen through the digital footprint that we have right now. We are turning around annual reports, we are turning around sustainable reports, sustainability reports. We are churning out so much communication that I've been asked by my management to take a break for 1 month, and actually relax myself, and then we'll start plugging in from May. So this was an amazing thing that happened yesterday when my vice president called me up and she said, I can see you working so hard and your team is pushing it so hard as well, so just take a month off and just relax yourself and focus on other tasks that are coming in next 2 3 months. So again, as I started off, that these small little acknowledgements are very, very important, and they're very hard to earn, because you need to read the mindset of your bosses, your senior management executives, and then your teams as well, and then the floors you are sitting on as well, because those are your internal stakeholders that you are communicating to. Your behavior is being watched 24/7, whether you're on calls, whether you're communicating with your team, or the way you're behaving with your peers there. So it's like a cultural change. You should be a change agent, walking, talking. That is what inspires and aspires to be agile. I mean, if it is not reflective in what you're doing, how you're behaving, how you're being perceived, it's not going to give you the results that are required. It will not put you stand apart when people start telling other people that, see, look at her, see the way what she is doing. You're a success story in yourself, and I prize myself for that. Yes, I'm proud of it because my seniors have prized me with that position, and I'm very happy, and that's why I keep them very close to my heart. I am of the opinion that, and I told this to my team as well, that you always need to understand the concept of your bosses, what he is or she is thinking, and direction they are taking. Then only you can work on a strategy that can either change their direction, because you get uniform at one point in time with them, because you're working together for 8 to 10 hours together. If you're not going to put your effort into the people you are working with, observing them, you cannot bring out change, and you cannot be a part of business success as well. It's not just work we are doing in our offices, it's actually the human resource that we are working with, and we are interacting and talking and networking and collaborating, and that is what is bringing out results actually. And HR's part in this entire situation is actually very key and vital. And being in corporate communications, I work very closely with HR and the marketing teams, and I can tell they put their heart and soul into it to bring change. A single change takes a year or 2 years to come, and then it retains there. But there's a lot of hard work going along, a lot of fights that we have every single day with the management and the teams to get the results out. So that's my final take on that so far.
Firstly, I would like to say we all are so proud of you as well. Not only
Thank
you and
you.
your team and your managers. And yes, yes. And secondly, as you said, you took 1 month break. So yeah, we always need some short breaks to like excel and move forward and do things in the more speed.
Yeah.
So firstly, I would say that we are already like 6 months ahead of time. So if you like can spare like 5 to 10 more minutes, so we can have a Q&A session with the audience. So if they have any questions, so they can directly ask from all of you. So are you okay with that? Yes.
Yes.
So, and after that, we can just end the session. So, from audience, I have seen so many comments of Nasima Shaheen. So, would you like to ask something from our panelists?
Actually, I have written everything. Thank you all. It's been great experience, I must say, and seeing lot of women leaders, in this panel. I was just wondering. I was listening very, I mean, carefully, and loving it. Especially Kuratulain, she's very with the others also. So I felt like she's a very seasoned leader. So I was wondering, how did she manage to get the trust and credibility and respect and everything from her team members, especially male. With due respect to all my attendees here, male attendees, all of you, because I've seen a lot of female leaders. They face a lot of obstacles, hurdles to get that. It really I mean make them their journey very difficult. In most of the cases. So that's what I want to ask Ratulain.
Thank you, Nasima. I think answering your question is that, which I already answered, that I make it a point to study and observe the overall fabric of the environment of the company that I'm working with. Being a communicator, it is important for me to observe first and then to talk, and especially my bosses. And I work with CEOs and chairmen and directors. So it is very important to understand their tone and their mindset, so that the same tone can be communicated throughout the layers down. It always trickles down from the top. So if we have a little serious kind of senior management that has come over, I have to work very closely with them. I don't say that there are no conflicts happening there. I will not say that the life is all rosy and sundry on the first day of job or maybe 6 months down the line. But somewhere along the line, you have to give your bosses a little more comfort zone. When they start trusting you, they actually start giving you more
Just
work.
let me, sorry to interrupt you, but I'm
Yeah.
talking about down the line employees. I've seen that lot of interaction and coordination cooperation we get from the bosses in many in many cases. Maybe we can convince them. If we have enough preparation and homework and dedication, efficiency, so we can manage that. But I'm talking about the down the line employees. It's very difficult still. This is 2021. Still, it's very, I have seen very difficult for male colleagues, especially to, get and stay under, work under a women leader. That's what I'm
I
meaning.
agree with you. I agree with you, Nasima. I agree with you.
Yeah,
Trust me, I have worked with subordinates who were 10, 15 years more in age from me. Matlab, I was the youngest manager there, and they were reporting to me. And it is hard for a male go to work for a female one, and then work
very
with
true.
a female as a boss who's actually younger than you. But you know what? Maybe I'm blessed or what. I have always seen them comply in the first 3 months, because maybe I don't act like a boss. I have my benchmarks set, that what I require from my team, and they are very clearly communicated on the first day of orientation. But what I do is, I'm more of a friend. I'm more of a colleague. I'm more open to them to talk to. Or maybe I did find two people in my life across my career that were hard nuts. One was in ExxonMobil. He was a very grumpy child when I came in. He has not been trusted much, and he was also about to be fired. But when I came in, I took him as a challenge. I remember the first day he came into my office. He was standing like in the corner, like a scared child, And I asked him to sit down, and he said, "No, no, ma'am, I'm not going to sit down." And it's an MNC, you don't expect people acting so weird around. I have been into other companies before, so it was a little kind of aristocratic kind of thing that I thought that he's like standing like somebody. Like you have a housemaid or something, is standing in the corner, very, very uh, confused in
Rigid,
himself. See,
maybe.
so and yes, when they are
Yeah,
confused and they're apprehensive, they talk about you as well. They are observing you, mind you. They are very observant because females are very fragile. Even if they are in power positions, the opinions they make is like they spread like wildfire. But then there is your own character and your own standing and your own aura as well that you bring in with yourself. So you have to deal them as a male, unfortunately, not as a female. And I think, and I credibly say that our hormones have been changed to
yeah,
male hormones, because if you don't talk to them one to one, eye to eye, and in a tone that they
yeah.
actually adhere to you, like you're talking to a 3-year-old child telling
Mm.
you cannot pick your nose in front of the entire crowd that is sitting. So you have to put your foot down somewhere. You have to make them accountable of certain things. You have to draw a line that they cannot cross. And then there is always the assessment that comes in, that comes like a weapon for us as well. So these are the behavioral changes that we have to change. And I have been successful
Yeah,
in
very well said. Yeah.
the behavioral, as I said, it's a human resource and behaviors that you need to study. You need to understand what is happening in the minds and and in their lives. Again, you get a little more personal towards them, digging deep down, so they start opening up towards yourself. And then when they observe that what they tell you is not spoke about in any other circle and it's not coming back to them in another kind of way, in another kind of version, they start trusting you. This has been my weapon so far with everybody that I've worked with, being it females colleagues or male colleagues that I'm working. So I think that has actually helped me. Number one, observation. Number two, opening up to them myself as well and letting them open up and telling them it is okay to work with females. We are not aliens at the end of the day, and we don't throw tantrums without any reason. There has to be a valid reason for which you are being accountable for. Dude, this is your sheet. What are you doing? So yeah, it's difficult, but I think 12 plus
Excellent.
experiences, you have to comply somewhere. You have to bring down them to a level that they sit with you and they understand that yes, this is important.
Yeah.
And once again, when your senior management gives you their backing, they have to comply as well. That is also one thing that is very important, that what you're doing, it has been credible, and your senior management is standing behind you and telling them what she is doing is right. Now let me tell you an example. There was a vendor in Metro Cash and Carry who was responsible for the canteen, and 3 of our employees went into serious health issues because the food was not right. And since I was eating there as well, I went to my managing director. He was British at that time, David, and I told him this is what is happening, and he said, "Why don't you take the lead?" So you see, Joe, a person who just comes up with a thing that this is something getting wrong, and the MD is telling you, "Why don't you take the lead and just get the things right?" I fired that entire team in one sitting, and they said, "We are going to record you." And I told them, "All right, record whatever you're trying to do, and go to David and tell him I fired you." The next day they had a meeting with and mind you, I was the only female in those 15 males sitting there of varied ages. So he went to my MD and he said to him that see how she talked to us and she just fired us. And my MD said, if she has fired you, you are fired. I don't want to see your face in the office again. So it's the tone that the management sets with you as well when they trust you and trust your practices, and it comes with the way you behave. Again, it's all behavioral. It's how you sell yourself. You are a walking brand, and that brand is something that is being recognizable to everybody around. This is important. Nothing is impossible. Everything complies in the end. I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, yeah, very well. Thank you so much. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So thank you, Nasima. Thank you, Kurtulan. And now I am moving forward and about to end the session, which I don't personally want because I'm really, really enjoying this session and panel discussion and having great panelists and leaders basically with me through this platform. And by saying that, I would like to thank PASE for organizing this great event and letting me use this platform to meet all of you, the audience and the speakers as well. So thank you very much, and thank you for joining us today for the talk. So now I am officially closing the session. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mara. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
And have a nice weekend, everyone. Take care.
Thank you for joining. Bye bye. Thank you.
Take
Bye-bye.
care. Bye bye.
Bye.